And the first honor flight of 2023 brought out a crowd of hundreds here to the U.S. Oval for the ceremonial send-off of about 3 dozen veterans, including a World War II veteran, for a day-long trip to Washington, D.C. to visit the war memorials dedicated in their honor. Also on this flight, an 18-year-old from Shazy, New York, Luke Basso, who received some special recognition from North Country Assemblyman Billy Jones.
Whereas to preserve the stories of our hometown heroes, Luke spends his time interviewing North Country veterans and recording their experiences to ensure that they are not forgotten.
Luke was honored for the many interviews he's done with veterans and honor flight participants that he's posted and shared on his YouTube channel. And Luke Basso joins us now. Welcome. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
How was the trip?
No, it was the honor flight. That was amazing. I loved every second of it, and the veterans, they deserved all of that. And I'm so happy that they allowed me to go on them with them.
Had you ever visited the memorials before, or was this the first time?
First time, we drove past them before. I don't count that. So yeah, this is the first time I've actually saw the memorials, went after them in person rather than drive by them. And I got to take lots of great pictures and talk to a lot of the veterans there too, and meet a lot of great people. And a lot of veterans who were not from the honor flight who were just walking by, I got to talk to them too. It was really great. I loved it.
Out of all the memorials, was there one that stood out or that was the most moving for you?
The Vietnam wall, was it 58,000 on there, right? That it was a lot to take in, and I just going there in person, you hear about it, and while I was seeing it in person, I saw a lot of Vietnam veterans looking at their friends who were on there, and I talked to them and I shook their hand, thanked them for the service, and I hugged a few of them.
Another highlight I know for many is the Arlington National Cemetery.
Yes.
And the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and that also is pretty powerful.
That was great. I didn't think I'd ever see the changing in person ever. That was great.
The World War II Memorial is relatively new and nice. I know for a number of the World War II veterans, the honor flight is the first time that they've ever been able to visit it. So did you get to visit with a lot of the honor flight veterans?
Oh yeah, I talked to all of them, I think. I talked to every single one of them and got to hear their stories. It was more of a conversation, not really like an interview like I do.
Yeah.
I got to hear a lot of good stories, and there was one chaperone, his name was Randy. He was in Iraq and Afghanistan. I got to talk with him a lot. He was
I saw you got a picture with him.
I did, yeah. He gave me his sergeant patch from the war. He gave that to me. He's like, "You deserve this," and I'm like, "Thank you so much." He's like, "Well, thank you for everything you're doing," and the veterans really appreciate what I'm doing with and preserving their stories.
And you mentioned interview. You said you didn't really interview any of them.
No, I just talked to them.
That day you talked with them, you had a conversation. But when you say interview, that's because you do interviews.
Yes, I do.
You've done a number of interviews with veterans that you put on your YouTube channel. How did all of that start?
2 or 3 years ago, at the very end of COVID, there's this Doug Brown, yeah, he's 100, well, I think he was turning 100 years old in Peru. There's an honor flight parade for him, and I went to go meet him, and I said, "Oh, come back tomorrow or something, and we can set up for you to meet him." And I walked in, there's 2 cameras, and they recorded our conversation. And I'm thinking, why can't I do the same thing with all the veterans I knew? Because I knew a few veterans at that time too, including Tony Gagliardi, who that was my first documentary I did. So that's how it kind of started. I was 15 then, and then in the new year I got film equipment and started going around trying to find veterans to interview.
So you started doing some interviews. Some of them were shorter, that you would post those videos, but you have, as you mentioned, you've done a couple of documentaries,
yes,
longer format interviews with a couple of World War II veterans.
Yeah, Tony Gagliardi and John Agia. I'm so proud of that video, and he really liked it.
What was it about John's story that was so interesting?
He went into detail of the combat he was in and the scenarios he was in, and was talking about when a sergeant died. He was crying during the middle of the interview, and he really opened up about everything. And that is my best interview and my best documentary I've done.
Why do you like sharing veteran stories?
Well, it's important to preserve history, and with our World War II and Korean War veterans, I want to preserve those stories the most. It's not just veterans I interview, also people who lived through historical events. like World War II survivors. I've interviewed 2 Holocaust survivors. Dr. Monk, he was on there. I've interviewed people who grew up during World War II as like kids in America, like on the home front. But it's important to preserve all these stories, and also their point of views rather than watching like a documentary or like a textbook or a movie. This is their point of view and what it was like for them, what makes it special.
So a lot of kids, I mean, it's normal for them to take videos, and a lot of them post videos to TikTok or other platforms.
Yeah, right.
How did you end up deciding to create your own YouTube channel? And again, the veterans, that's kind of not something that a lot of kids may think of or do.
I think YouTube is just that I was familiar with that throughout my life, so that was the most familiar, and that's more for everyone, not just like TikTok. That's more for my generation.
Yeah.
And with the veterans, I like history, and I knew a lot of veterans, and well, it's important to preserve these stories too. That's my main thing, preserving these stories.
You're going to move to North Carolina.
Yes.
You're going to do your senior year in Wilmington, North Carolina, but you're already planning to attend Cape Fear College in Wilmington, and they have a great filmmaking department there.
Yes, they do.
So that's the path you're going to follow. Where are you hoping it will lead you?
I do want to be a movie director, like in 20 years, or like a set career movie director. That would be amazing. And not just for like I'm doing like historical stuff, like more lighthearted stuff in the future too.
But do you think you'll keep doing these videos for the time being?
For probably forever. I'm going to keep on doing these.
You attend the Honor Flight
Yes.
send-offs. Have you for a number of years now?
Since I was 14, yeah.
Really? And why? Why did you decide to attend those?
I like to see our veterans being getting honored, and they deserve all of that. They've done so much for our country.
I think a lot of people are grateful, and for a lot of people, I think that's a way that they can show that and thank them for their service and their sacrifice. They come to the Honor Flight send-off because it is a way to say thank you to those veterans. And those veterans, as you now know firsthand, have a whirlwind of a day, but I think for many of them it's a truly memorable day that they have in Washington.
It was like a 18, 20-hour day, something crazy like that. I loved every second of it.
At the send-off a couple of weeks ago, there was a little bit of a surprise tucked in there. Billy Jones had a special presentation for you.
That was awesome. I didn't expect that, and I'm so happy he did that.
Now, you and your mom go to these, but you also, some of the veterans you've interviewed come to these as well, and it's sort of, you get to see them again and meet up with them.
Yeah, like, well, Tony, we bring Tony Gagliardi. He just turned 98. He was at Iwo Jima in Okinawa. We bring him to every single honor flight, and he gets up at 5 in the morning. He's like, I'll be there, and we pick him up and we bring him to the Oval, and he loves it. He loves going to those. And
if folks are interested, how can they subscribe to your YouTube channel? How can they check it out?
Just go on YouTube, type in Filmperia. It'll come right up. You can see all my interviews on there, my documentaries, and I really appreciate everyone who watches them and keeping the history alive of these veterans.
Luke Basso, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.